we got a tough opponent, and we got to play a heck of a lot better as a football team this week than we did last week. Our improvement from week 1 to week 2 was good, not great. We've got to play better across the board. We know we can't have 8 penalties, which that's not smart football, and that's not a smart football team. A lot of fundamentals we need to correct across the board when you look at it. And that's what Monday, we really want to look at fundamentals and make sure that we're improving. And we got to improve every place, that we are. The opponent obviously speaks for themselves. They're a physical football team, and Kyle's done a great job. And so we got to get ready.
Thank you, Coach. We'll open up for questions, and we'll begin with Bryce Miller.
Hi, Brady. What, if you can point to any 1 or 2 things, what has allowed this program to be as successful as it has against the Pac-12 over the last 5+ years?
Well, I think we've won 10 games. Somewhere in there, 6 times. Been a very good football team. I just think, it's you're going out there trying to prepare to win every game, and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't.
Is there value in piling up some wins like that against a Power 5 conference just to consistently show not only you can be competitive in those games, but consistently win those type of games?
I don't know what kind of value people put in it. I think for us, it's trying to do what we set out every year to do. And number 1, that's to win the conference championship. Secondly, to do that and play as good a football as we can to a man on our football team. The guys who give us the scout team during the week. I mean, those guys, we appreciate the work they put in. So, I think, we got to play San Diego State Aztec Warrior football.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bryce. We'll go to Andre.
Hi, Coach. Your defense held Arizona to 1 of 13 on 3rd down conversions last game. Utah in their game against BYU was only 2 for 9. How critical will it be to continue that trend to get a victory this Saturday night?
Well, obviously, you want to get the opponent's offense off the field. We play really good defense when we're watching from the sidelines, and our offense is out there. We want to get the ball back for our offense. And it's always been a big part of how you win football games is, doing a great job in the 3rd down situations.
And for the 2nd straight week, you're preparing to play a team that came off a game against BYU. I'm curious if that provides any kind of help in the preparation for this week, knowing you have game tape of a team you just played against a common opponent.
Well, I think, there's some common things when you look at BYU from a defensive standpoint, what they play, how, when you look at the framework and the structure of the defense. I think same thing can be said when you look at their offense to some degree. So, you look for those similarities. I know when I was, the D-line coach at Michigan, I always first tape I wanted to look at was Iowa's defense versus opponent, because of how they play defense. So I think, you take some value from it that way, and then, get ready to play.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Andre. We'll go to John.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you.
Good to see you, John.
I just want to get your thoughts on the way Jordan kind of prepared for that game at Arizona, and then the way he took what he did in the week of practice and implemented it during the week.
Yeah, I think Jeff, Jordan, we've got a really good relationship, and I think that helps. And I think the way Jordan has gone after his preparation, I think he's taken it a little bit to a higher level. I think it's a little bit more detailed. And I think the understanding of the system itself, obviously now being in that same system for 15, 16 months, I think it's really helped him.
Can you speak to just the job that Kyle Whittingham has done during his tenure at the University of Utah?
Yeah, being playing Utah when they were in the Mountain West, when I was here first, and always respected Kyle, always respected, he's a defensive minded guy. So watching their defense and watching his defense, the physicalness, you're going to get from their front on both sides of the ball. With Ludwig there, he knows a little bit. He's got a little insight, obviously, to what we do from a defensive perspective. So, it's a ball game that we've got to be a little different in some ways, but we also got to do what we do best.
And then lastly, after the win over Arizona, you kind of spoke to the importance of the crowd on Saturday night, really feeding off the energy even in the building in Tucson when you were the road team. How important is, playing in front of large crowds, and what do you hope to see on Saturday in Carson?
It'd be great if we can get Aztec Nation there, John, and I appreciate you bringing it up because we got the greatest fans in this country, and hopefully the blackout and to get them up there will be it'll be great. It'll be a lot of fun for our guys.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. We'll go to Kirk.
Hey, Brady. On the penalties, a few years back, San State had a lot of personal fouls and some unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, but it's like there's kind of playing with an edge, and sometimes you get flagged, and sometimes you're going too far, and sometimes it's just playing hard football. How do you kind of deal with that part of it, but also still want you guys playing with an edge?
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, and we talk about it all the time. We got to prepare with an edge. We got to play with an edge. We're not going to have the best athletes out there week in, week out. So we've got to have and do what we do best. But at the same time, you can play with an edge, but when you start to hurt your football team, then you got to really look internally and say, hey, I got to be smarter than that. And that's what I meant early, 8 penalties. That's not smart football. Whether it's pre-snap, the personal foul, or whatever, that is not smart football. And I told the team on Monday, we've got to have some composure about us. We've got to have some discipline about us. Still play on the edge, but don't hurt the football team.
Do you think some of that's getting egged on by the opponent, or is it just a frustration in the moment?
Oh, I think I think there's always stuff that goes on, believe me. And I think sometimes we instigate, and I would say that they instigate.
So, and then do you just mainly speak to them in general terms, or do you kind of dig down a little bit and go over individual penalties?
We'll go over individual mistakes and penalties.
Thank you.
You got it, Kirk.
Thanks, Kirk. Back to Bryce.
Sorry, Brady, I wasn't smart enough to think of one more I wanted to ask related to the Pac-12 thing. From the other perspective, when you were at Michigan, and I know you're isolated worrying about your team, but your fan base thinks you're going to win a game against a non-Power 5 team. You have the resources, you have all the perceived advantages. From the other perspective, how did you manage playing teams that weren't Power 5 when you were either favorites or high expectations that you would win?
I would say no different than I have as the head coach of Ball State, the head coach of San Diego State, or the head coach of Michigan. We got to prepare. It doesn't matter who we're playing. Does not matter. We got to prepare so we can play the best, as a football team.
It really doesn't feel different.
No,
That's what
Well-
coaches say generally, but is that really the truth in some of those games?
well, last time I looked, I was a coach, so I guess that would be right.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Bryce. We'll go to Lee Hamilton.
Hey, Brady, Charlie Brewer's got a ton of experience, the Baylor
Yeah.
transfer. What kind of quarterback is he?
You know what? He throws the ball well. He's got a nice rotation on it. If I was truly a quarterback coach, I'd say he really spins it well. But I think he does a great job. I think when you watch him set his feet and throw it, I think he does a great job. You can tell he's got a lot of experience. And he's athletic enough to extend the pocket and make some things happen. And he's got a strong arm. I would say the other thing, Lee, he's got really good touch, I think.
Follow-up question on Whittingham. When Utah got into the Pac-10 via the expansion, how big a challenge is it to take a program from one level, group of five, to really make it a player in a big-time program? What's the biggest challenge that a coach would face?
Yeah, I think number one, it's got to be an all-in. And when I say that, I'm talking about the university itself, the direction they want to go. If you're going to go into, a different level of conference affiliation, I think that's a big part of it. I think obviously your recruiting is a huge part of it. So how you go about that, and does it become more of a national level or a blueprint that you're in?
And a question about what happened with the Big 12 and them voting last Friday to bring on those four. Did you ever have any type of deep conversation with J.D. Wicker as to whether San Diego State should be a player in that, considering size of the market, tradition of Aztecs, and having a Big 12 footprint in California? Was there a conversation?
No, there wasn't. Lee, I know that JD from his work that he's done, he'd be better to ask about what direction.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised those four wound up there?
Maybe three of the four. I thought the Cincinnati was a no-brainer.
And who was the fourth one? That was a strange one.
Well, I sure like to have a California team in there.
Answer, non-answer?
Yes.
Thank you. One other question, talking about personal fouls.
Yes.
When you go back to the New Mexico State game, was there something of a cheap shot directed at your player that set Dunkel off? Would the video show what was the genesis of that? Because he'd never really played in a rage like that.
Yeah, I think Billy was number one. He was, and more on the second foul that he had. He was really finishing. We talk about finishing all the time. He took it one step too far, though, when he speared the guy on the ground. But, it still was part of finishing.
So he wasn't cheap shot as a trigger point.
Well, I think there's probably something that goes on during a game once in a while that he got agitated about.
You defensive linemen don't do that kind of stuff, do you?
Nope.
Thanks, Brady.
Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Lee. Back to Kirk.
Hey, Brady, Utah has a linebacker, Devin Lloyd, who's leading the team in tackles. He's got like 25. Is that a guy that's really jumped out at you? And what have you thought about him? And do you really kind of, keep him in mind, or you have to take the whole defense in general?
Well, I think, they play great team defense, and that's been Kyle. That's his MO since he's been there. And I think Devin Lloyd is the guy who's a bell cow on their defense. But I think Tafua and Nifai Sewell, I think those two guys also are really good players for him.
Anything about Lloyd in particular that stands out to you?
Well, I think his ability to run, I think going from sideline to sideline, he enables him to make a lot of football plays.